This video is sponsored by Tabletop Stronghold. Beginning of this year, I fell into a Dark Eldar army, and so I called my buddy Scott, sometimes known as the Miniature Maniac, because I knew he also had an unpainted Dark Eldar army, and so I instigated a bit of a reasonably friendly challenge that we would both have 2,000 points of Dark Eldar finished at the end of this year. Now, Scott called me up about a month ago in tears, begging to move the end date of this project from end of December to March. And to be fair, he wasn't crying. And to be fair, that's probably not a bad idea because Dark Eldar, it turns out, is a horde army and very difficult to paint. I've got 1,000 points, finished, painted, based, ready to rock and roll, and on this desk in front of me, I have the other 1,000 points in various stages of completion. And in my heart of hearts, I do kind of want to see just how close I can get to that original December deadline, because a lot of this stuff just needs to be taken over the finish line. And that finish line is coming right up. Some of the projects I've started but not yet finished are a pair of venoms, the cute little Drukhari boats, a 3-man squad of Reaver jet bikes, my favorite group of weirdos, Court of the Archon, and so many scourges. The flying, big gun toting linchpin of my army. It's time to get this stuff done. The venoms I have mostly built, there's just some fine tuning that still needs to happen. Where the handrail meets the hull, there's this unsightly seam that I feel like would not exist on an elven craft. I used Tamiya putty to fill it in and sanding twigs to file it away. Then there are some witches hanging off the sides. Like all Dark Eldar, they have an unsightly seam on their shoulder, but I've come up with the winning strategy to get rid of these quick. A little painter's tape under the shoulder, dripping on some super glue, sprinkling it with baking soda to make it into a hard resin, then removing the tape so I can sand it to perfection. Now to paint these. Also, right after I finished priming, I noticed that I somehow dripped super glue all over the wings. I've painted a bunch of Drukhari boats at this point, and I want to try something new. Maybe I can do it even better. Before I did a pink into blue scheme with some freehanding, I want to try it another way. I started off spraying my skiffs with some patches of dark blue, then a highlight of lighter blue, and then a highlight of a light blue. Just a little, I want some serious contrast. Then I turned the PSI way down on my airbrush and splatter painted on some light blue dots. This adds an otherworldly texture to my alien ships. Now for the juice. I sponged on some liquid mask. I saw Scott use this on his Razorwing jet fighter and I thought I would rip him off. Sponging this on will hopefully make for some nice irregular jagged edges, and I brushed it on in a few places to thicken it up so that the rubber is hopefully easier to pull off later. I also made up a pancake of this stuff on some baking paper. This might come in handy later. Then I replicated my blue layers, this time with magentas and pinks, doing the same highlights and shadows and splatter. It was making me nervous to see the blue disappear with no proof that my idea will work, but here goes. I feel like my pink wasn't pink enough, so on top I used some new pink paint I bought not too long ago, Cuttlefish Neko Pink, a fluorescent color. I'm going for garish with this color scheme. Base coats are all on there, and I feel like just from a year of painting this scheme, I've gotten a lot better. And I actually have the recipes for every model I've ever painted, but I don't find that I look at it all that much. I do find that if I just look at the original model and I'm like, okay, pinkish with purplish and reddish, and then I try to figure it out, I do figure it out, and the figuring it out ends up a little bit better than the original. But now that I've got the base coats on there, I'm really hoping I can get the goo off and it looks really cool. Going back to my pancake, I rubbed it into a big rubber booger. This should be the best thing for removing liquid mask. I didn't wait any time. I want the paint as fragile as possible. I touched my booger of rubber and it worked like a charm. It stuck to itself and peeled off the model, exposing the blue underneath. It looks ragged and chipped and so good. I like this a lot more than my freehanding, and it was honestly much easier to do. The paint chips look so good. I just want to make more paint chips now. This liquid mask has been on my desk for like 4 years. I could have been doing this whole time. And speaking of this whole time, what's been taking me most of the time all year is all of the little things. Dark Eldar have a lot of little tidbits, and it's time to paint those tidbits. To finish off the hull of my ship, I sponged on some black for some more paint chips, getting this into the crew armor as well. Then edge highlights everywhere. Then I picked out all the metal with my gold mix, which is 50% gold paint and 50% earth brown. I mixed these two together for the coverage. Then dark red for all their underwear. On the faces of my Drukhari, I painted these with Reichland flesh shade and then a few highlights of red beige, mixed in with white paint so that they have suitably pale complexions. Red for their hair, blue for their scrunchies, evil white eyes, and a wash of Nuln Oil. For the metal, I've been tinkering with how to get it to look good all year. After the base coats, I dry brush silver to desaturate the gold and to get some value. And speaking of value, I used some contrast paint Wildwood to really force in some grime. Laying down a line of this, and then using a damp brush to thin it out. After that, a sponging of silver to get a gritty texture like the one on the rest of the flyer, and I think the metal's done. I edge highlighted every bit of the hull and then stole Nick's black panel liner to line some panels. This is quick and really satisfying to do. These guys have been sitting on my desk for weeks and in my pile of shame for months, and now I get to finish them. It feels so good to finally glue them together. These boats don't shoot too good and they don't do much of a punch, but what they do is have a transport capacity of 6, which I feel like would be a remarkably tight squeeze, but I don't mind because it just means most of my army has movement 14. And a special rule, my guys can hop out, do a little moving or a little shooting, and then hop right back in. Now for the bases, and I already casted up some 60mm in resin. I sanded the bases smooth, attached my magnet paper, drilled holes for the flying stand, which I drilled a little bit too big, but that was no problem because I sprinkled on some sand and then super glue to lock them into place. Then an airbrushing a dark gray, a dry brushing a light gray, and a white to bring out the detail in the rocks. Then a dusting of jade ink, and I put my dark magenta over the sand. I picked out all the little skulls, these help show that the Dark Eldar are the bad guys. Then I put on some neon pink tufts. Nothing says bad guys like a little pink. I stuck them down and my second and third venoms are done. Dark Eldar is a transport-heavy army, and those transports are very good, but very tricky to properly utilize. I've been playing Dark Eldar a lot in TTS on the computer while I've been building up my collection, and games are won and lost in the movement phase. I need a lot more practice, but luckily today's sponsor can help with that practice. Tabletop Stronghold is a one-man operation based out of the beautiful state of West Virginia, and they have an absolute mountain of hobby goodies aimed at all wargamers. Whether casuals or tournament players, Tabletop Stronghold has you covered. Starting with their mag case, this is a durable miniatures army carrying case for making sure you're able to take your whole army wherever you go. With sleek metal trays that slot into any of the 24 slots to give you lots of options on storage. And included is a set of 3x2mm magnets, perfect for gluing underneath your minis' bases so you know your models are locked in and not going anywhere. Tabletop Stronghold is not just about transport, they also facilitate gaming, with their competitive terrain set version 2.0. Crafted for Warhammer 40k, this terrain ensures balanced terrain with optimal line of sight and cover for great grimdark tactical gameplay. Choose from a selection of 1, 2, or 4-inch wall sections, all made of sturdy MDF board. I was able to assemble a full table of tournament regulation terrain in an afternoon and am now ready to get practicing for my next event. Don't miss out on the end of the year sale going on right now. Tabletop Stronghold is offering 30% off the mag case, the competitive terrain set 2.0, or bundle them together for the ultimate gift this holiday season from Tabletop Stronghold. Next thing to scratch off my to-do list, Court of the Archon, the 4 weirdest and most important dudes in my army. I have the Lamian and Urgle done, and the Slith and Medusa still need to get some paint. On my Slith, I need to finish up the armor with some paint chips, and then to paint the gold. I did it just like on the Venoms. The Sliths are a hilarious bit of storytelling for the Dark Eldar. They are the bodyguards of the Archons, and because no Drukhari trusts any other Drukhari, the only thing that they can trust is a literal snake. On my slithering fellow's sword, I painted it black and then glazed on some white paint and then neon green to get the letters to glow. I picked out the snake's eyes with white paint, and now onto the last little buddy, the Medusa. I want to paint the Medusa in pink like my Cabalites, but I don't want to follow my original recipe. I grabbed a pinkish speed paint, thinned this down, and then put it over the armor. This gave me a pretty good pink. Then I made up a purple and glazed this over the clothing. Then I used a blue mixed with purple for the crotch banner. I'm trying to use the same colors that I have on the rest of my army in different ways. Now onto that crazy head. I glazed on a dark red, and this actually is an alien parasite, which is the real Medusa. The elf body is just a host. The Medusa is the Archon's computer who keeps track of logistics and data. I dry brushed the spooky tentacles with a warm white, then washed it with some red wash, and then started doing highlights of many little lines to make the tentacles look wormy. First with a light red, then a pink, then a white, and to make it look extra gross, I glazed on a blue wash. With the head done, I started finishing off the other parts, highlighting all the armor and clothing, sponging some black over the armor for paint chips, and then edge highlighting everywhere. I used a black wash on the mask and clothing, and for that mask, I pinned the eye like a big old cartoon eye, which felt appropriate for this weird alien creature. I did some shadow of blue on the pants, and then some edge highlights of light purple, and I also glazed this over the skin. I don't think the host is doing very good, so its flesh is a little bit more dead than my healthy Eldar. With my Medusa done, it was time to knock out those bases. On paper, Court of the Archon is a trash unit. 4 random dudes that all have different swords, weapons, pistols, but you attach an Archon, give them a pain token, spend a CP on them, and this ragtag assortment of losers becomes the most potent damage dealer in the Codex. I'm really excited to get these on the tabletop. Core of the Archon is now finished. These guys have been sitting on my desk for so long, but now they are done and they get to go to the gaming room. And these guys are actually a little bit expensive for Dark Eldar at 95 points. So now I've painted 235 more Dark Eldar for the collection. And I have another easy win to look forward to in my Reaver jet bikes. A couple weeks ago, I was feeling spicy, so I built and painted the majority of a squad of Reaver jet bikes, but I didn't quite finish them. It's time to change that. And it helps that I just painted some venoms, the big Reavers, so I can take what I learned on those and apply it to these guys. I finished base coating the gold onto the blades of the Reavers, then a dry brushing of silver. Then I used some contrast paint to get dark grime onto the blades. They don't clean these very often. After responging, the metal was looking as eccentrically dirty as the rest of the bikes. There were a few more details to pick out, like the holstered splinter rifle bit that I found in the Raider kit, and the little weapons that I can finally glue on the bottom. Then for the crew, I finished off their faces with the same pale complexion and lifeless eyes, and I stuck them down onto their rides. Reaver jet bikes aren't a powerhouse unit, but nothing in Drukhari is. They make up for it with their sneaky abilities and movement 16. Nothing can catch a Reaver. The Reaver jet bikes are done, which are 65 points for a squad of 3, bringing me up to an even 300 points added to my Dark Eldar army. 4 units for 300 points is not a lot of points, but I am still making progress, and I'm really excited because now I get to work on my favorite unit in the Dark Eldar, the Scourges. I have 2 boxes. Actually, I have 4 boxes of Scourges, and that is because Scourges are awesome, but they are old. And so in every box you get 5 guys, and of those 5 guys, 4 of them can take any of the most powerful weapons in all of the Dark Eldar. However, in each box, you only get 1 each of all of the awesome guns. And so I bought 4 boxes so that I could have the awesome guns I wanted. So I'm gonna put together 2 of these boxes for my army list, but then I'll have 2 more boxes that are just sort of hanging out. Anyone who played Space Marines prior to 2017 knows this pain. The Devastator Squad. So many super cool guns, but you only got 1 las. You only got 1 plasma. You only got 1 melta. I bought so many Devastator Squads and so many Scourge boxes. But right now I'm excited. Step 1 is going to be finding the wings because I didn't clip those out and I haven't seen them in a bit. Months ago at this point, I went through all 4 boxes of Scourges and built all the guns I wanted. And the Scourge box comes with a lot of options, both in weapons and looks. Each box comes with 3 bird wings and 2 bat wings. I would like to have some variety in my 2 squad, so I decided to make 5 bat boys with dark lances and 5 bird ladies with haywire blasters. I'll be left with a random assortment of parts, but right now, I get to have exactly what I want. And you know what else is a random assortment of parts? That's right, our website. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our merch like the new Nick and Jay dice and the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members will get a credit they can use on our new monthly terrain pack or any previous pack we have ever made. For the month of December, we made The Fall, Part 1, Buildings. The easiest way to get a ton of big terrain really fast. This set focuses on small printable decorations for cardboard, foam core, or Pringles can buildings. Build out a grimdark militarized fort dripping with details. With a selection of sandbag-laden battlements, barbed wire defenses, armored wall decorations, and noble eagle lookout posts. This set allows for large terrain to be built in record time, and it has printable textures to add detail and decoration to take this terrain to the next level. This is the first of 3 releases that focus on getting a proper 40k board up and running and as easily as possible. These guys are all jumping off tactical rocks, and I need to incorporate these into the resin cast bases. I started by grinding down these rocks as much as I could and then gluing them down to the resin. I cleaned up any egregious errors with some milliput, then sprinkled on some pulverized slate rock, locking it in place with ultra thin superglue. Now I get to finally assemble my flock. I usually paint my Dark Eldar separate from the bases, but I want to make sure that those guns are pointing exactly where I want them, so I built these guys on their bases. For the bird-winged haywire totem gals, I used the bird helmets from the Scourge kit. And for the Dark Lance bat boys, I used witch heads so that the 2 squads have a distinctive look. I gave everybody a black prime and then started out with the bat boys, using the same blue color recipe I used on the venom for the base coat. Then I edge highlighted everything. I don't particularly like to edge highlight, but it does look really good on Eldar. After that, I painted their underwear red and gold over the metal parts. I love the long barrels of these ultra las cannons. Now onto those wings, and wings are a little annoying because if a dude has a wing, it's a pair, and each pair needs a front and a back. So 5 guys actually need 24 wing faces painted. I want to keep the wings dark and spooky, so after the black base coat, I sponged on reds going from a really dark red to a little bit of bright pinkish red. Then a dry brushing of a red beige color to make them look fleshy. I airbrushed some jading from below to darken them a little, and then I called it done. And speaking of done, look, more witch heads ready to go. I like my little bat boys. I finished the bat boys, and now I gotta move on to the havoc birds. And after I finish these 2 squads, I'll have 10 more scourges that need to be built without the fancy guns. But that might actually be okay, because Games Workshop did something pretty smart with the scourges. The first 5 that can take all the awesome guns is 120 points, which is a lot, but that's probably fair. To reinforce the squad to a full 10-man is only 60 more points. I would spend 60 points all day long on movement 14 models with infantry, fly, grenades, keywords, shoot and scoot with a good amount of anti-infantry shooting. Ooh, there's something there. So I think I will build the last 10 guys as normal dudes. But speaking of normal dudes, I gotta get a move on with these dudes. I like to think that the bat boys and the bird ladies have a feud of which squad blows up the most vehicles. On the birds, I used my pink recipe stolen from the venom for the armor, and then painted the underwear red, gold on the guns, and then edge highlighted everything. On the bird wings, I could not decide what to do with these. I ended up using all the same colors I used on the bat wings, this time dry brushing it on. Having a unified wing color for my scourges will help them look uniform even though I used a lot of different bits. I airbrushed a black so the wings feathered out to a darker color, and then my winged elves were ready for their bases. Finally, my Dark Eldar army is nearing completion. Dark Eldar minis are cheap as chips, so every mini feels like a drop in the bucket, but this project is finally getting close. With the Havoc Bird squad of Scourges done, I have now completed all of the Dark Eldar projects that I have started, but had not finished until now. Technically, they're not done because I ran out of Gamergrass Alien Tufts, so I have to buy some more of these. But once I do, then all of these things will be officially done and I will be in the home stretch of this Dark Eldar project. The Scourges and the Jet Bikes and the Court of the Archon and the 2 Venoms give me 540 points, bringing me up to a grand total of 1,600 points of Dark Eldar. And I want to paint 2 Archon, so that's like another 200 points. So really, I've got 200 more points to work with. And I don't know exactly what I want to do. I've been playing this list on the tabletop in TTS, and it needs a little something. It needs a little juice. I was thinking about one of the Dark Eldar flyers, maybe the Void Raven Bomber or another Ravager. Ooh, a Beastmaster pack would be amazing. But Games Workshop hasn't sold that kit in like 2 years and I can't find a good proxy. If any of you guys know a good proxy for Beastmaster, please leave in the comments below because I want one. I want one real bad. I played it in a game and it was awesome, but I can't buy that model because Games Workshop won't sell it to me. I'm really glad I decided to embark on this Dark Eldar journey in this friendly competition with Scott the Miniature Maniac because Dark Eldar have been kind of a mystery to me in my 40K career. I've never played them before, I've never played against them before, I've never really even seen a Dark Eldar army in person. Even back in high school, like nobody collected Dark Eldar, so I've been able to experience all of these kits for the very first time. And a lot of these kits are pretty old. I'm kind of hoping that Games Workshop 2025, they do a little something with the Dark Eldar. I'll be looking for it.